Welcome to this live Empathy Elevated. I today have a guest, Michael. I'll let you pronounce your last name. I want to make sure I don't mispronounce it on the air. I'm delighted to have Michael on the line. We've been planning this for a few weeks, but just between conferences and travel, myself, if you saw, I recently went to Australia, 17-hour time difference from here. We've been a little bit busy, but I'm so happy today that we're able to meet. On that note, I'm going to have Michael introduce himself to everybody, and then I'll introduce myself to his viewers as well.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for invitation, first of all. It's Michał Poczwardowski. It's super difficult to pronounce for everyone. And Michael works, for international clients, I just use Michael. I write a newsletter called Perspective Ship. So happy that I already seen some of our subscribers has been joining. And I write about mental models and decision making through the lenses of software engineering.
Right. Wonderful. Michael, thank you for that. Yeah, and definitely, again, his Substack, Perspective Ship, I came across it several months ago, reading about his silent retreat, which I'll be asking a little bit more about later. For everybody joining us, I see a few people have joined: Des Kennedy, Priyank, Miriam, Stephen, Ria, Juliet, Sai. Welcome. Good showing in the first 2 minutes here. So I'm sure more will be coming in. For those of you who don't know me, this is Empathy Elevated, being hosted today just on my Substack, but this is, of course, collaborative with both of us and will be shared out to our subscribers. Here at Empathy Elevated, I do, of course, talk about empathy, emotional intelligence, but I really bring it into the lens of applying Stoicism, ancient philosophy, to modern work challenges, as well as talking about human AI partnership. I bring in a blend of topics, and I've been in tech for well over a decade. We have definitely some overlap, Michael and I. So we got talking. We had a coffee or tea chat. It was coffee for me, tea for him, because we have about an 8-hour time difference. But yay, technology! We can do these things globally. So we're just gonna have a conversation today that dives into tackling some of the challenges we see at work, working in tech. Mine is more from the process and data side of things with my Six Sigma background. Michael's more from the engineering side, but both sides, of course, heavily overlap in our daily lives. So bringing those angles. I'll go ahead and kick off just like some of the idea today we're going to go through. And technical people, and I know this for myself. We're pretty fluent usually in diagnosing issues in systems. But diagnosing that friction in a room when there's tension in a room, or maybe perhaps you've lost your audience, that can be a little bit more challenging. It's been for me included. I want to talk about, we're going to talk over that theme, but let's go ahead and actually open up and just talk about a little bit more about like our philosophies and what we write about. Michael, I want to hear from you. And I know you talk a lot about like mental models, especially as it pertains to engineers. So you would just introduce the audience a little bit to that, especially those who have not read, have not had, been able to read Perspective Shifts yet, but will soon.
Thanks, Colette. Thanks for the intro. So I treat mental models as tools that you can use as you use any other tool at your work. And sometimes these mental models are just questions to ask. Sometimes these are new perspective to look at the problem. Sometimes there are some phenomena from different domains like physics or chemistry that we can apply to solve our problems. So some of the concept some people refer it to as multidimensional thinking. When you use different concepts from one domain and try to apply them in another. And I believe if you gather enough tools for your work, you can just do slightly better than just without these tools, which means that you can find solutions that were hidden to your problems. You can find just a bit better way of doing things. Things like friction, for example, from physics, just as an example, it can be treated as a mental model as well. When you look at your workflow, for example, and find places where friction is helping you or not helping you, can work either way. So meta models in general for me are these tools that you can use, and I write about them because it might be selfish, because the side effect is that I'm just getting more familiar with them when I describe them. And writing things down is one of the best way to learn new things. That's how I started writing about mental models, because I believe that decision making is a skill which we can learn it. We can get better at decision making, solving problems, and all of that using all these tools. Like your pace, for example, is
Mhm.
also kind of a tool or framework that you can use. So sometimes not relying on just your instincts and automatic behavior, and like using this kind of tools can help you at your work, which
Mhm.
that's why I write about it, and I believe it's beneficial. And I believe that thinking can be something that can be practiced, and decision making as well. So that's in super short the script, maybe not that short, but at least quite the distilled
Oh,
version of what I write about.
does doesn't need to be short. We're going to dig into more today about mental models and learning in general. That's what we're here for, to talk through this. Um, I was going to say, just for myself, in terms of, in my phrasing, you named it right, with pace, the pace system, being a framework in some sense, it's a bit of a mental model, but I also, and for anyone who's not familiar with it, it stands for pause, ask, consider, empathize. Set of steps, basically a system to apply, to be able to apply, listening, empathy, and getting through that friction in the room or various scenarios, right? It's something that can be leveraged in many different scenarios. I talk about systems and frameworks through my writing and I guess my own version of mental models. And Michael, just like you, I have found writing to be some of the best education. That's what brought me here. And thinking through and having that time to reflect. Yeah, I do write on my own. I journal, I take notes, but I often find in those moments of reflection, I get those aha moments. Like I could turn this into something I have learned. Just when I thought I knew how to handle something, a new situation comes up. And that's often how I get inspiration for my writings, just these different conversations or challenges that are faced. Speaking of mental models, just, Michael, what's a mental model like you reach for constantly? Like one of your favorite or your go-tos that you wish more engineering leaders used.
My favorite one is inversion.
Mm,
So you take problem and invert it. Simple example. You want to work on some improvements for your engineers, for example, and you can frame the problem, instead of thinking how to make your people happy at work and content with work, you can think how to make them miserable, which sounds scary.
jeez.
But of course you're not that's not your aim. You're just
No,
inverting
no.
the problem. You're just listing everything that will make them miserable, and then you know what to avoid, because
Mhm.
avoiding stupidity is much better than seeking brilliance. And actually,
Mm.
that's what we did with our leaders. We just gathered and listed everything to do to make our engineers miserable, like do not let them meet, or cancel their development budget, or micromanage them, and all of these things. And we've got
Mm.
huge lists of all of that. And then we started brainstorming what to do to just work on the well-being of them, not the opposite. So inversion is my favorite, because this kind of example is easy to remember.
That is. I mean, it's simple. There's not really a whole series of steps. I mean, there's steps within it, but you just think you invert it. You think the opposite. I'm laughing too because I'm thinking of that, just the concept, reverse psychology, and I know I've read some things on this, a little bit different than inversion, but with my young daughter, sometimes if I something she does not like, and then suddenly I like it, or I dislike something, she'll want to like it or want to do the opposite of me. So it's a good motivator. It cracks me up. It works. It does work. But yeah, inversion. I like that concept to think of almost like the extreme opposite. Uh, Yeah, and micromanagement, that's not fun. I don't think that's something we really most of us would desire. I certainly don't. Um, yeah, I want to just talk a little bit too about go back to this core idea, talking about friction in systems versus frictions in rooms. And the fact is with our roles, which it is a little bit different, but we work with people, we engage with people, some very technical, some not, a whole range. Um, and I can say this about my industry too, but why do you think technical people, they'll find friction in a workflow pretty fast or in a system, but then they'll miss it in a conversation? Why do you think that gap exists?
My bet would be that technical people are focused on solving problems, and that's the first thing that they are starting to thinking. And sometimes the thinking about the problem comes with isolation of the people that are working on the problem. I think that would be my bet, that the friction is not perceived in the same way for the systems and for the rooms and people around.
Hmm.
Also, debugging people is much more difficult than debugging technical problems, and there's much less certainty about what we can say about given individual, for example, when we describe characteristic of given individual. And I think that's the part of the problem. It's
Hmm.
just difficult.
Yeah.
And it's much easier to focus on technical stuff than people.
Yeah.
What would
I
be
mean,
your take on this?
yeah. Very similar. And I mean, just like pointing to an example, right? Like when I've coded in the background, like a workflow, I'm trying to get the data, moving. I'm doing enrichment of the data in ETL, and when I'm getting an error, even if the error is a little bit vague, it will usually give me, what line in my code or where I need to look. It will point me to where I need to go. And my challenges early, and why I got so interested in this topic of EQ and starting to think about it in systems, again, from that technical perspective, I wanted to solve the problem. But a lot of the literature I was reading on it and working with people and trying to learn and educate myself, a lot of it seemed very fluffy to me, or very like theoretical versus what I was used to working in a system or technical where it would tell me what the error is. It would pop up and tell me directly. Now with people, you can't always do that. You talk to a person, I don't know, I'm just going to throw a name out, Sam. I talk to Sam who will tell me directly, what is on his mind and what, he doesn't like, and he'll be very direct with me. And then I'll talk to maybe Nicole, yeah, I'm just saying hypothetical names here, Nicole, who will tell me absolutely nothing, but be bothered by the exact same thing. It's not like a computer or a system I'm working in that will give me, tell me the error or tell me the friction point directly, what the issue is. Um, that's been one of my challenges, of course, as a technical person. A lot of what I write about empathy elevated to get past this like mystery, um, and really be able to take that step back. I know the temptation there is there to problem solve. It certainly is for me as well. I want to get to the root of the issue. I want to solve the problem,
Mhm.
move on, clean my code, have it run through. People don't work that way. It's a little bit messier. Definitely. Better or worse. Um, let's see here. Another,
I
really.
just
Oh yeah, Michael, please. Sorry. Go
just
ahead.
what was the trigger to name the Substack like this? I mean, you wanted to put everything around the empathy as the main theme.
Yeah, love this question. Thank you. So I'll be truthful with you, like empathy elevated a little bit, just like the background with it starting. Um, I actually was running it as a YouTube channel several years ago. And then I moved over to Substack, essentially shut down the YouTube channel, moved to Substack, and I found an audience here pretty quickly. I found a lot of like minded folks who are looking to read information, learn. Nothing's wrong with YouTube. I just think it was a little bit easier here to find people interested in this topic, find community, like meeting people such as yourself globally, being able to connect with folks. but empathy elevated in itself. So I take this back because it was still the YouTube channel when the name came to mind. But I was actually driving. I was returning from a TEDx event that I was attending in Los Angeles. Driving home, which is about 2 hours, I was stuck in horrendous Los Angeles traffic. If anybody has ever driven in Los Angeles, or you know its reputation as one of the worst traffic cities in the world. And mind you, this was around 5 p.m. at night on a Saturday, traffic for no reason. But yeah, when I had a lot of time to think, it really just came into my mind because that was the topic. Empathy was the topic that I was speaking of often. Elevated, like lifting it. It just came into my mind. The color green is my favorite color. So even my mouse right here, and then you can tell. So, and then the mountain. That just I was brainstorming just images with like nature, and that kind of just like worked, right? Like lifting, elevating, elevation, the mountain, having that imagery. That's what came to mind. I will be honest and truthfully, I did start at first very much focusing around empathy and EQ only. But as I started reading more, and I really do try to read at least once a month, a new book, it really came into focus for me that, oh, you know what? I'm already unconsciously applying a lot from Stoicism. There's a lot of crossover there. And then in my work, truthfully, I do a lot of AI enablement for my day-to-day work, increasingly so in the past 6 months. So this is a part of my work, working with AI and how these systems and how this engages with the human element as well. So that's how it came together. What about yourself, a perspective strip? How did that come about with the title, your
Just,
Substack?
just corresponding to what you have just said, a great story. I
Yeah,
agree with that
please.
one. And also, that's great example of how sometimes all the ideas are being connected when we let ourselves to be in a place where we don't have any kind of external disturbance or distractions, right? That's great
Mm,
cue for creativity, I would say. And some people call this shower thoughts, and that's the
mhm.
name for this, right? When you disconnect completely, like you were in a car, but some people are having these thoughts in taking shower, for example.
Yeah.
And I think that we should cherish these moments with total disconnection, and that's where one of the greatest ideas I had came to me. So I highly recommend being in this, like designing for yourself these kind of conditions when you can really let go of your train of thoughts and be totally disconnected from any other input, just to have this kind of breakthroughs like yourself.
Mhm. I
And answering,
actually
yeah, just
no, go ahead, Michael. I feel like we were both thinking something. Go ahead, though, please.
no, go with it. And I wanted just to answer about the name of the perspective ship. So if you
Oh,
want to add to
yes.
this thread,
Yes.
just go.
Please. Please.
So the
Yes,
perspective
that was
ship,
good.
I was thinking about this for a few long weeks, just trying to find the best name for the newsletter. And I coined the term perspective ship as the ability to look at given thing from different perspectives, because I believe that's where we have the most insight, where we are not just looking for through our own eyes, but sometimes from other perspectives, and looking at other, trying to be in as others are seeing us, or others are seeing the problem. And I think we really need that in order to find better solutions, but also to find the empathy for others. I
Mm,
think that's corresponding well with what you are doing. So trying to see the problem from eyes of others, but also their problems and their pains and their challenges. I think that's universal. And that's something that university can help. And this ship is just as in leadership, it's
mm.
um, part that you add when you want to get better at something, or you want to master it, which so good that it sounds like a word, I would say. So, and the domain was available, that was part of it as
Okay,
well.
that's helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
perspective.
actually, with Empathy Elevated, that was one of the first things I did as soon as I got home that evening, out of that terrible traffic. I went online and checked. I'm like, is empathyelevated.com available just to see? So it's always an added bonus. Uh, Mike, I was going to ask too, just in terms of going into that state with being free of distractions. I know one of the first posts I read and how I learned about perspective shifts when you were talking about your 10-day retreat and being in silence. I'm not sure if there's anything related to that you wanted to talk about, or um, what that brings, to your work and just with what you write about.
Yeah, actually, the conference talk that I was, I mean, from the starting, at the start, you said that we were at that conference, and actually, I was talking about this experience at the technical conference, and I presented the takeaways from silent retreats and what can be used in your work and life. And it actually the creativity one and being disconnected wasn't there, so that's that's
Mm.
additional one.
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't there. But the biggest takeaways from there was that we are single threaded, and you really feel it while being there, close for 11 hours, sitting on the floor in meditation hall, and you really see you see how your brain works and how all the distractions were disturbing you from being just here and I mean in the present moment. And that's the retreat center is designed in a way that you don't have any kind of distraction because you don't have your phone, you don't have any kind of inputs, you cannot talk with each other, you didn't even you cannot maintain eye contact with people. So all the brain modules responsible for social interactions and planning are being slowly and slowly turned off because there's also prepared schedule for all the centers the same. And that's a great sandbox environment, so you can see how your brain operates without the distractions. And then you can try to apply these learnings in your ordinary world, not in a special dedicated place, which is difficult and it's tricky because our environment, especially currently when we are a bit overflown by all the content and how easy it is right now to create content and all these distractions and all of that simultaneously creates quite difficult environment to fully focus and to be in the moment, be present, and do not pay that attention of what happens in the world. So the first takeaway was that we are single-threaded. We have
Hmm.
this global interpreter lock in our brain, and I think it's scientific. The scientific consensus says that yes, we are single-threaded, and when they were doing this MRIs of the brain, it looks like the brain is just capable of do one thing at a time. Of course, it's conscious brain, not unconscious one. Unconscious one is still
Hmm.
takes care of your breathing and heart rate and digestion and all of that. But the conscious brain is just able to do one thing at a time. And if we are feeling that we are doing more, it's just an illusion. So you're just switching from task to task. And great things happen when you just think at one thing at a time. And when you leave this meditation center after 10 days, it's super easy to focus. And your brain is just quite immune to all the distractions. And it slowly and slowly deteriorates day after day. It's easier to get distracted, but a few days afterwards are amazing. You can just sit and write for a few hours. You can drive a car for 3 hours with no breaks. I mean, no time breaks. And yeah, that's so the first takeaway is that we are single threaded. The
Hmm.
second one is corresponding with what you are writing about, and your first step from the framework is that to pause and to
Hmm.
really just detach yourself from all the feelings and emotion and observe them rather than react to them. The whole point of the meditation is that you can delay your reaction to what's happening to you. And one of the most demanding part of this meditation retreats are sittings of strong determination when you sit for 60 minutes without moving. So you cannot
Hmm.
change your position of your legs or hands.
Hmm.
And the pain is getting stronger and stronger each minute.
Wow.
It's difficult. It's difficult. They say it's not a torture. You can move, of course, if you want, but they also say that if you can move at as just try to optimize for not moving as. I mean, if you move like 4 times in an hour, try next time. Try and move just 3 hour, 3 times
Hmm.
for an hour, and they say it's not a torture. So you can move, of course, But the relationship that you're building with the pain and trying to observe it and how it dissolves is building this skill of delaying the action from reaction, because you're feeling the pain, but you're okay with it. You just
Mm.
observe it. You acknowledge it that yes, it's here, but you're continuing to scan your body and try to feel the sensations in whole body, not just the overwhelming pain that you feel in your legs, because that's quite demanding to sit for an hour without any kind of movement. So that's pausing. that's the takeaway. That pausing is important, and you can also use it. Can be tool, and you can practice it. So you can practice not reacting to everything that happens to you, which is helpful in real life scenarios and situations, as with
Mm.
your framework. So that's the second takeaway. And the third is the locus of control, and that's
Mm.
probably corresponding with Stoicism. So Buddhists also highlight that there are two buckets of things. One bucket are all the things that you have control over, and the second bucket are all the things that you cannot control. And Stoics preach that you should focus on only on things that you have control over. So that's also the takeaway from the retreat.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. And I'm actually sitting and pausing here, just absorbing everything. The locus of control, yes, definitely tied to Stoicism, and I talk about it. Similar phrasing, the dichotomy of control: what you can control, what you can't control, letting go, what you can't control, as difficult as that can be at times, especially with how distracted we are. And as a meditator myself, I can say that sitting still, that's often a challenge. I do want to squirm a little bit after about 20 minutes or move. I start to notice my foot start to feel that pins and needles. So I can only imagine going for 60 minutes, but at a time, I congratulate you though for doing that. And I like that method too, the way they, like just try better next time. It's very much with my Six Sigma thinking, right? Like Kaizen, continuous improvement. Um, it's okay. You're not perfect. You're always just continually improving. The single threadness, I do want to talk a little bit about that because I know for me, and as somebody who it's busy, life is busy. I think when we greeted each other before the call, that was my first reaction. Life's been busy, which it is. And I think about it, I reflect on it. I know for myself, multitasking, I'm well aware I am guilty of doing it at times, but it's true what you say about that. It is an illusion because you really are just going one item to the next, to the next, to the next at a very fast clip. You're not actually doing five things at once. It might feel like that, but it is an illusion. Um, and I do my best work when I'm able to focus. So maybe I do need to look into doing one of these retreats myself. I don't know if I can do the 10 days, but I'm sure even a short period would make a world of difference here.
There are
I'm
shorter
just
versions. I'm not
Yeah,
sure, but they're around the world, and there are shorter versions as well.
yeah, and I've seen ones in the area when I've gone online to different event websites, seeing it once for like 3 days or shorter period. I know they have them out in the desert, near me. I've seen those as well, although I might want to avoid that this time of year, but, Northern Hemisphere, it is summer now. So, yeah, I'm just thinking about, with this with us being technically minded people and thinking about, we've had this time for reflection, this time for pause, this time for silence and to focus, and we've put these efforts in to continually improve and bring this sense of, um, peace. I know for me, meditation brings a lot of calm and clear headedness, even in my work. Um, I know for me, and I definitely want to answer, I'll answer for myself here, but just curious, a moment. Um, what's the moment that you feel you got the human layer wrong, and what did it cost? Like, what's something you've learned from?
I think just corresponding to the retreat and the whole social interaction module, it's super interesting to observe how, because you're there with 50 other men, there are 50 men, 50 women, and they're all around you, but you cannot talk with each other, and you avoid the eye contact. And it's also really great environment to witness how your brain tries to categorize everyone around, whether to like them or not. But it doesn't make sense because you are not talking to each other anyway. So even when you are in the kitchen and you are eating something, you're not sitting with. I mean, you're sitting with them, but you're not talking. It's disallowed. I mean, you cannot. So you realize how many judgments are being made automatically, which is also how many misinterpretation of other people may happen there. And we are just judging people automatically by their posture. That's what happens within the center because you don't talk with them. And then on the very last day, they allow you to talk with everyone, which is quite daunting experience because you haven't been talking for anyone for 10 days, and now you can.
Oh,
And it's super tiring for the brain. And I had a headache after an hour of talking to people because suddenly your brain tries to build all these personas of these people and memorize what's their names and what they are doing here and all of that, everything that you have heard. And I think that's really important realization to know how many biases you put into judging other people around and putting what they are saying through lens of your perspective as well. And of course, that's quite extreme example to be disconnected from reality and do not talk with anyone. But it shows you that there's so many misjudgments about everyone around and biases. I don't have any specific example of my misjudgment of other people, but I think the just realization of how many computations are going around because we are social creatures. We lived for years in a social group. I mean, we are social animals, and how many of these algorithms and functions are working in our brain and just changing our decisions and changing how we see the world. So I think that's a powerful realization from the retreat as well.
yeah. Yeah, and definitely, I mean, coming back to being able to talk after all those days, I mean, I could see that being draining. I mean, creating a headache, it's so much all at once after 10 days like that. I from my answer here and just like my realization, and this is also part of the emergence with the PACE system, the second step of asking. And I say the opposite or the inverse of that would be assuming
Mhm.
and making the assumptions about people, in this case, like judgment. In my case, more so, I'm sure unconscious judgment there. I'm guilty of it as well, but the assumption in thinking styles has been something I found myself guilty of, especially early in my career. I'm a very analytical person. I do think in systems. I like to put things into categories or, it's systems thinking. Um, Six Sigma, did the test pass? Did it not pass? Yes or no? With people, it's a little bit more of a gray area and needing to adjust with my communication style and even going so far as to ask. I've done mentoring, I have coached others, I have cross-trained others in my workplace to help them get where they need to be, skill set or learning, with the company. And sometimes, I mean, it's so beneficial just to ask and find out what is your learning style or how do you like to learn information rather than assuming, or how would you like this presentation? I work with people that I know. I work with somebody I've worked with for 9 years cumulative. We worked together at another company together. So I know if he needs something, how to present it and send it over to him. I know his style, but I might not know somebody, as well, who I've only worked with maybe for 9 months or who I met 9 minutes ago. Cannot make assumptions. So asking, I think that's an ongoing thing that I do have to remind myself and even leverage my own system I've created. It really becomes powerful to have to put that forward.
I would add to it just how context is important, not just while working with AI, but working with people. And I think what you has mentioned is putting as much context as you can, and also managing expectations, right? Because words have totally different meaning for us, and sometimes specifying given words and what did you mean by deadline and all of that.
Yes.
I think that's adds to the what you have said, and also how context in all of that is important. But it's I just assume that all that you have mentioned, the communication style and how people work, it's within the context of given people and our work.
Yeah. Yeah. Context, definition of phrases. I know one that I often hear when I work, especially with like our data architects, and I work closely with our IT team. Definition of done. That is something that I've adopted
Mhm.
in a lot of the planning for project sprints. I like to always include that because done can mean so many different things to different people.
Of course.
Uh, on that note, I know we are a few minutes. This conversation has gone so quickly, just almost at 37 minutes now. We go for about 40 minutes here. So I want to conclude here really on two items. And Mike, I'll let you go first. First of all, anything you want to add that you feel you didn't get to express today? We'll remind the audience of your Substack again. So anything you want to get in, but also with going back to that friction point, if you had to give advice to somebody, right? They're going to walk into a room tomorrow or maybe sometime later today. For those of us, it's just the beginning of our day, and they enter into a room and there's a tense conversation. What's the single first move you would tell them to do, or piece of advice? So yeah, they go into a tense room. What would be the advice you would have for them? And then, yes, anything else you wanted to add that we might have missed today?
For the 10 situations, one of the best advice I got during my career is to look at people incentives, and
Mm,
then you can really understand why they're behaving in irrational way. Of course, from your perspective, they're they're behaving rationally, but from you. So anytime you think that something is just wrong or you don't understand, try to look at people's incentives and what's important for them, and then you see much clearer the situation. So that's one of the first things I'm starting with, just to ask myself what are these people, I mean, what are their values and what are their incentives, and then you it's like debugging why they're behaving in certain way. And when you understand it, it's much easier to understand what they are doing, and it's not irrational, it's just they are just driven by different factors and incentives. So that's the for the 10 situation. And from our conversation, I love that we have aligned definition of writing and how writing is important, because writing is like transfer of thoughts from one brain to another, or from yourself now from to yourself into the future. And it really is the way that you can see your own thoughts and see all your gaps in your understanding. Also, it helps you formulate your ideas and also explain these ideas to others. So my bet is that some of the majority of the things that we were saying today has been written by us at some point. That's why it's
yep,
much easier to communicate our ideas with the world. So the advice for the room is to ask for incentives, and advice for outside of the room situation is to write more your thoughts, because it's helpful.
I love that. Yeah. Michael, thank you for being on today. I'm just going to give a quick insight just on you walk into that tense room today or tomorrow. I really say take that moment of pause with listening and trying to understand what the situation is. Incentives, that's a big one. Two different people in the same conference room on either side can have completely different incentives for the same project or same timeline in order to complete it. And having that understanding about what makes somebody tick, what their driver is, what's having them stay motivated or lack of motivation for that matter, will get you a lot further than just having the need to speak immediately and interject, right? So I think I am piggybacking off of yours. Sorry, but very, very similar, a little bit different wording. On that note, I've really enjoyed our conversation today and us bringing, the mental models and systems and what we have written in bits and pieces for both of our audiences today. I'm really grateful to have had you on, even with our packed schedules of travel and conferences. Just a reminder for everybody, Michael's Substack is Perspective Ship. Please check it out. I always enjoy reading his posts and getting that insight and even just challenging my own thoughts and mental models that I've been running on for years. On that note, we're going to go ahead and end the live. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Have a good evening, great afternoon, morning, or if it's nighttime and time for sleep, do get some rest. All right. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Michael.
Bye. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Thank you.